Hello everyone, this is Chapter 1, What is Management? I will be using the general structure of your chapter to organize this presentation today, but I will be supplementing with a lot of material that I find particularly interesting and tied to the topic. And so I just want to make you aware of that, so you're mindful that there is supplemental material that will be included. I'll start with the definition from your text about management. Management involves planning, organizing, leading, and controlling the human and other resources of the organization in order to achieve the goals of the organization. Perfectly good definition. Our focus will be on planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Managers are concerned with purposeful organizations, an organization that has come together to accomplish something specific. Now, it could be that purposeful organization is a sports team. It could be a political campaign. It could be a small business. It could be a multinational corporation. But the point is, it is a group of people who have come together to coordinate their actions in order to accomplish some common purpose. Managers are concerned with all of that. They're concerned with ensuring that the organization accomplishes its purpose. So managers are responsible for directing or supervising the use of the organization's resources and the organization's activities and processes. And I'd like to draw a distinction between the two of those. So for example, the resources of an organization include the people and what they know and can do. It certainly includes the machinery and the equipment and any raw materials or facilities that might be part of what the organization is involved with. It includes the computers and the information technology. So think of all of those things as sort of physical resources. And it also includes the financial resources of the organization. So those are the things that the organization has. The activities and processes are what it does. So an organization performs work. Some of the work might be developing new products. It certainly is marketing to its customers and selling to its customers. It's producing the products and services of the organization. It's managing the human resources. It's managing the supply chain arrangements. All of that work is also under the purview of managers and what managers are concerned about. This is another diagram that illustrates the relationship between resources and activities, and really it's just there to illustrate this arrow and to show that resources, which is what the organization has, are then deployed in order to accomplish the activities and processes or work of the organization. So people and money and information are needed in order to perform product development, technology development, operations management. All of that is part of the system of the organization that is being managed. Some resources are tangible and others are intangible. When we think of tangible resources, we generally are thinking of money and people and sort of the physical resources that are available, like plant and equipment. But there's also intangible resources that are available to organizations, which include its reputation, and it also includes sort of what it knows, the body of information that's available to the organization that is embedded in the minds of the people there. So that sort of information resource and certainly the reputation resource are less tangible, but they're resources nonetheless, and they're resources that can be deployed toward the work of the organization. Here's another way of thinking about the activities of an organization and how it is grouped together, how it comes together to do the work of the company. The person who developed this model of value-adding activities drew a distinction between the idea of primary value-adding activities and those that are support activities. So for example, at the bottom, the idea of primary activities refers to everything that is associated with touching the products and services of the organization, from the supplies that are purchased and brought into the organization, to the work that is done to, say, produce a product, to the shipment of that product to the customers. the marketing and sales activity that was associated with getting them to buy it to begin with, and any follow-on service that's required after the fact. Think of an automobile distributorship and the service that is part of that follow-on activity. So all of those primary activities, in essence, touch the products, services, and customers of the organization. And they result in a transaction or a series of transactions that generate revenue. Now, if you go up to the support activities are important. They're hugely important. But what they are intended to do is make the primary activities more effective. So, finance, accounting, legal, and administration are concerned with making sure the organization is abiding by the laws, but it's also there to ensure that money is available and money is moving through the system appropriately so that it functions like a well-oiled machine. Human resource management is there to recruit, train, bring in individuals to work within the activities of the organization so that it can be effective. R&D and technology development are concerned with developing new products, developing new processes, designing new information systems to ensure, again, that the primary activities can be done efficiently and effectively so that the performance of the organization will meet goal. I just used the words efficiently and effectively, and I want to talk about those for just a minute. Your book draws the distinction between efficiency and effectiveness, and it says efficiency is a measure of how well or productively resources are used to achieve a goal, and certainly we all know what efficiency means. It means that you're doing something fast and cost effectively. Now, effectiveness, though, in the book's definition, is this measure of the appropriateness of the goals, meaning are you doing the right thing and are you then doing it well? Are you able to achieve that goal? I understand these definitions, and I think you understand these definitions. I will say that I have a little bit of an issue with the way your book then goes on to make use of these definitions. If you go to the next slide, we now are looking at this figure 1.1 from your text, and it talks about low efficiency, high efficiency, and low effectiveness, high effectiveness. And you'll see why I have some concerns when you look at the green top left quadrant. It gives as an example of low efficiency, high effectiveness, that a manager chooses the right goals to pursue but does a poor job of using resources to achieve those goals. And it says, as a result, a product is developed that customers want but that is too expensive for them to buy. Well, I would argue that that's the very definition of having the wrong goal, because if you designed a product to be priced at a price that is too expensive for your customers to buy it, that is by definition not effective. So I have some issues with the way your book contrasts efficiency and effectiveness, and we won't use them in those terms in this way. So I will argue that efficiency is being fast and cost effective, and effectiveness is accomplishing the goal. Well, to accomplish the goal, in most cases, you have to be fast and cost effective, and then more than that. So efficiency is necessary, but not sufficient for effectiveness. But we can't be effective and not be efficient. Okay? So, and I don't want us to define effectiveness in sort of the odd way of you accomplished a goal, but it wasn't the goal that really mattered. We don't want that to be what we talk about. What I would like to do now is talk about another way of describing performance, organization performance. So one model that has been used a lot by organizations in the last 10, 15 years, maybe longer than that actually, is the balanced scorecard model. Now the balanced scorecard model at one time was called the stakeholder model. The stakeholder model in essence just said that when you're talking about organization performance, different groups define it differently. So owners define it as financial performance, but customers define it as say, the success of the products the company has developed. And certainly employees might define performance differently as well. So the balanced scorecard model sort of took the ideas of the stakeholder model and showed the interdependency among those perspectives. And that's the model that I would like for us to use. I believe you'll see this model in your work experience. I think you'll see this model or a modified version of it across your academic program. It's a useful template or framework for visualizing how an organization comes together to serve the interest of different groups. So let's define the owner or financial perspective. Owners are interested in money. Largely. So they're interested in growth and whether the organization is growing. They're interested in the profit that is produced by the organization, and in essence, their return on investment. And those are worthy goals. You want your owners and those with a financial perspective to be satisfied with the performance of the organization. And that's defined largely as growth, profit, return on investment. Another perspective is that of the customer. So customers care about the performance of an organization that they're buying from, but they are defining performance, successful performance, as whether they're pleased with the products and services of the organization. Are they able to get the quality they want, the value they want? Are they going to come back and buy again? Do they see sufficient selection? Are improvements being made over time that cause them to continue to come back? So from a customer perspective, an organization may define its performance differently. Then there is a third perspective, and that is of the operational or internal perspective of an organization. That includes the people and the work, as we've been discussing up to this point. So you could define performance in terms of the quality of the products and services that the organization produces and the quality of the processes that they employ. You could talk about productivity or efficiency. You could talk about innovation. And then you can talk about employee satisfaction and morale as well. It's in essence saying, how is this organization working? Is it working well? And are people satisfied as employees there? And then finally, there is what is referred to sometimes as the foundation perspective, and that is sort of the original conditions or the baseline for this organization. And that is the capability of the people, the knowledge that it has, the R&D, the culture, the employee training. And in essence, everything that happens builds on that foundation of what the organization is capable of doing and the culture that it has. Now, there's an interesting way to visualize how these come together. Now, this is going to look complex. You're not going to ever be expected to draw this diagram and explain it in great detail, but I think it is a really useful way to think about how all of these perspectives fit together. And that interdependency of these perspectives, to me, is at the core of the management challenge. That's why I think it's important to think about this in this way. If you think about the first level of an organization, at its most basic level, it has people and it has information. So human capital, as shown here, are the people and what they're able to do. Information capital is what the organization knows and the information it has to act on. The organization capital here refers to really the success of management. It's in essence saying, has management developed a culture that is aligned? Are they aligned with the demands of the marketplace? Do they have a team environment that's focused on accomplishing the goals of the organization? So in essence, this first bottom of the diagram here is talking about the capability of the organization and the foundation that is laid for performance. At the next level, we have the internal process perspective. Again, that's focused on the work of the organization and how effectively and efficiently that work is performed. Now, for purposes of this particular illustration, in this diagram, it's grouped work into 4 categories. We might choose to group it differently. It depending on the organization. But I think we would all admit that in most for-profit organizations, there's a part of the organization, a huge part, that is associated with producing the goods and services of the organization. Or if you're talking about a retail or service organization, or hospital for that matter, it might be all of the activities associated with taking care of and managing the hotel, or taking care of all of the products that are brought into a retail store and presented and sold there. It could be the management of the operations of a hospital. So it doesn't have to be manufacturing at all, but it is the activity of interacting with those products and services and customers while they're part of the process. The customer management process, as described in this diagram, is focused specifically on acquiring customers, finding new ones, getting them to come in, getting them to buy, and involving them in the work of the organization. And then the innovation process is the development of new products, new services, and other things. And so we're not speaking here specifically to how organizations might be structurally organized. We're just talking about buckets of work, buckets of activities and processes. And if an organization is performing these things well, and the people in the organization that are doing this work are satisfied and happy, and there's high quality, then you could argue the organization is performing well from an internal process perspective. The next level shows the customer in this equation. And so I hope you're beginning to notice now that there's some arrows that go from the bottom level to the mid-level and now up to this third level. And in essence, what those arrows are intended to show is that you have to have a certain level of capability, human capability, organizational capability, information capability in order to perform this work at the internal process level. And then beyond that, you have to have successful output from these internal processes in order to offer to customers what they want. And generally, customers view the organization, they don't care how you manage your human resources. They don't care generally how you manage your factory floors. What they're interested in is the price, the quality, the availability, selection, functionality, service, and brand, and maybe partnership that is part of their value proposition. So the customer value proposition is what customers see, and it is only the capability and the processes that allow you to provide that value proposition. Okay, let's go now to the financial perspective. And as you might expect, if you have developed the proper human information and organizational capital, and you have deployed it to accomplish the work of the organization across these various internal processes, and now customers see a high value proposition and they purchase and they return to purchase again, then that is how you begin to see the financial perspective, the financial outcomes of growth and productivity. So that's what gives rise to long-term shareholder value. You're generating a revenue line that is growing. You have done that by satisfying customer expectations, and you are doing it efficiently and effectively because of the way you're managing the organization. So in essence, the point of all of this is to show that the resources of the organization at the foundation level, the work of the organization at the internal process level, give rise to customers who are satisfied and come back and pay for your goods and services, which give rise to satisfaction of the financial stakeholders. So all of that says that these things are interdependent. So some people will argue, you'll hear it argued all the time, well, the customer is always right, or the customer comes first. And then other people will argue, well, it's not that customers come first, employees come first, because only with satisfied employees will I be able to serve the interest of my customers. What I hope you see is that all of these things are interdependent. It is the case that if your shareholders are not satisfied, you're not going to have the money that you need to make the investments in what needs to happen to satisfy customers. So all of these things are interdependent, and it is only with a comprehensive systems view of what an organization does and how those perspectives interact with each other that you'll be able to actually really see how to improve organization performance. This concludes part 1 of chapter 1, and now I would like to invite you to go to part 2 of the chapter 1 discussion. Thank you.